Hi everyone, it's only your favorite author, Segilola Salami here on the Segilola Salami Show. And as you can tell, my little human, she went to nursery and she came back with germs. So my throat is gone, my eyes are still there, but they feel quite sore and heavy, and my nose just feels quite congested. But anyways, I hope you can hear me today. So right now, I'm not sure how much of a barrister I'm going to be, serving drinks and whatnot, but I'll try. I had a lemon and green tea, and it's gone cold now. I think I just got tired. But anywho's, who have I got here with me today?
This is Phil Sageser. I'm an author, recent author, and a psychotherapist for 35 years from Asheville, North Carolina.
Oh, hello, Phil. How are you today?
So far, so good.
I'm quite interested though. Psychotherapist turned author. How did you manage that?
Well, I have been a technical writer in nonfiction for many years. I taught writing classes at Florida International University for a number of years, and so it seemed like it was time to venture into the nonfiction or into the fiction world. Excuse me.
Ah, right. So you're not really a new author, then you're just a new fiction author. But as far as, writing stuff, you've been doing that for quite a while.
Exactly.
Ah, so when did you write your first nonfiction?
Oh golly, I did a dissertation years and years and years ago now, probably late 70s, I guess, but it was
Wow. So
hardly read by a great many people.
yeah, but it's still, so you've been an author for at least 40 years.
Yeah.
Exactly. So you shouldn't don't understate yourself. You're not a new author. You've gone through the process already. Um, Yeah, so tell me about your new fiction. What's it about? What inspired you to write it?
It's called Do You Want to See the Videos? And it was inspired by by being asked that question, oh, probably 25 years ago now, in a conversation I was having with someone at the district attorney's office, I believe, about a client of mine. And there had obviously been a number of videos made of her um, being sexually abused by her husband that had resulted in her husband having to go to jail.
Oh,
And
wow.
I had the impression when I was asked this question that I was not the only one that had been offered the chance to see these videos. It sounded rather like they'd been passed around at the district attorney's office for a variety of people's entertainment. And I was rather appalled by all of that. But at the same time, my imagination um, had a hard time letting loose of seeing those videos in my head myself, and so that
Yeah.
stuck with me for 20 years until I finally decided to turn it into a book.
Interesting. Yeah, it's quite interesting though. So you got your inspiration from your work, and that's quite good. So when did you release it?
Uh, just a few months ago on Amazon as a Kindle.
Ah, okay, that's fine. So I'm quite interested, because I know you said that when you wrote your first nonfiction, you didn't get a lot of readers, to what you had published, and now you're dabbling in the world of fiction writing. And how has the first few months been for you? I mean, what have you done to try and increase, the popularity of your brand? Because I do say this to a lot of authors, whether anyone listens to me or agrees with me is left to be seen, but I do say that, as an author, you are a business, you are a brand. So when you're starting in a new, angle and a new path, what have you been doing to try and increase, the popularity of your brand?
Well, I've done a variety of things. We'll see how successful they are. I've been involved with Goodreads and tried to be an active participant there.
Okay.
I've put together a website that hasn't had a great deal of traffic, but at least it's another option. I've got a Facebook page specifically as an author, and have made a lot of contacts with old friends and people that I hadn't had much contact with in years and years, just trying to get the word out in whatever ways that I could think of.
Yeah. So Goodreads, website, and Facebook.
Yeah, those have been the primary ways that I've operated anyway. I have had interviews on a couple of blogs of that other authors have put together and that sort of thing, just as a way of trying to network.
Yeah, okay. So let's see you've got to teach me because today, I'm sounding like a frog, which is not really nice. But so tell me, what was the strategy of your website? What were the key things you put on your website? What were you looking to get out of the website? I mean, did you just put, you tell me, talk me through what you did
Well, it's
with the
very
site.
basic information on the book, summaries, quotes from a few readers, that sort of thing. It is an opportunity. I've answered some questions about how I came to write the book and that sort of thing, and expect that I will be blogging on sexual abuse and doing therapy with PTSD survivors and things of that sort as a way of just stirring up interest in that topic.
No,
Actually, the book.
that sounds quite good. See, you're understating your website though, because as a psychotherapist, you do have a lot of scope to use to drive traffic to your website. So a couple of questions. Are you on Twitter?
I'm not.
You don't like Twitter?
Well, the idea of it, I've never quite gotten excited about. Trying to make short statements that I send out to I'm not real sure who. Um, I guess I'm too old school for that.
No, no, no. I think everybody has, a preference. I mean, I for one, I have a preference for Twitter over Facebook. The things I like about Twitter is that it allows you to engage with people quite easily. And people almost expect. I mean, people who don't want random people commenting on their posts, they make their posts or their page private, but then other people put it, and you find that a lot of people tend to use hashtags so that more people can see the post that, or their tweets rather. I shouldn't say the post, their tweets and stuff. So for me personally, I like the openness of Twitter. That I find that it allows you to engage with a lot more people easier than you can do on Facebook. So yes, I do have a Facebook page, but I'm not really as active on Facebook as I am on Twitter. But that's not saying one is better than the other. It's just because what, if you read the experts, whoever they are, they always say that you should stick with whichever one you find most comfortable with. So if you're more comfortable with with Facebook, then by all means, yes, that's perfect. So your website, what's your website address?
It's WordPress, Phil Sageser at WordPress.
So what, philsageser.wordpress.com?
Yes.
Right, okay. So why did you choose a subdomain of WordPress as opposed to you buying your own domain?
Well, I'm pretty new to all of this social media stuff to begin with. And so actually, I think I got onto that by with the help of e-publishing for dummies or something of that sort.
Right, or was that what it was recommended in the book?
Yeah, and they explained how to do it, and so that's what I did.
Ah, right. Okay. Okay. That's fair enough. But one hint that I will get though is if you're using your author name, then I think you should go and register it because there are lots of for lack of a better word, there are lots of dodgy people out there, and if you don't register your domain name, and let's say tomorrow, you become like extremely popular as an author, and if you've not registered your domain name, it means that somebody else can quickly go and register it, and they'll probably bill you like $1,000 for you to get your own domain name from them. So that's why it's recommended that if you're using your name as your brand, then it's recommended that you then go and register. Even if you're not going to use it, at least register it so that it's in your possession. Because if you don't, anybody can register it and anybody can take possession of it, and when you then need it, it's not going to be available for you. Because I mean, we all hope that when we're doing stuff, we then increase. I mean, that's the whole point why I'm trying to figure out what you've done. Who knows? Maybe I could learn a thing or two from you. So when you finish this conversation, go and register your domain name, because I'm hoping you will become, the next best thing in fiction or even non-fiction writing.
Well, that would be a great idea. I will go make sure that I get to keep my name.
Perfect. So yeah, okay. So you read this thing and it says, to go and use a WordPress site. I mean, I think it's a really good starting point, because it does have a lot of features. And I think with WordPress, you can also, when you do buy your domain name, I've never used WordPress.com, but I'm assuming, or I think I read somewhere that it will allow you to use or redirect to your own domain name. But then WordPress does have a lot of good features, which I'm sure once you play around with it, you will find. But then, have you connected with other Goodreads authors and bloggers?
I have with some, though this is a new experience for me as well.
Okay, okay. Well, that's a good thing though, because see, you're increasing. That's you're doing stuff, so people become more and more aware of you. And when I started, if I actually knew, I probably would have gone the way of of WordPress.com first, and then redirect my URL, because I think that there's a lot of features where that now allows you to connect easier with other authors and bloggers on the same platform than if you're, kind of sort of isolated or cut out of WordPress .com. Okay, that's fine. So you've been able to connect with other authors and bloggers on WordPress.com. Okay, that's fine. And then you're going to start blogging on the subject. Okay, that's very good, because I think a lot of times when you read, they say that if you do a bit of blogging, it gives the Google or search engine spiders something to crawl and find new content.
Gotcha.
So by blogging, they say you find new content. What do you think about that?
That makes sense to me. Actually, the point of the book was not just to provide a good read, so to speak, but also to give some sense of what effective therapy might look like for people who've been sexually abused. So it's got not just a tell a good story kind of point to it.
Yeah, no, that definitely makes sense. Last year I did a series on the podcast on sexual abuse, that we went through the different stages of grief and sort of related it back to sexual abuse, because from the point of it's happened, how do you sort of come to accept what is happening? So you have to go through the different stages. Of grief. So I think, if you're then able to blog, then you would be surprised the number of people who are looking for resources on that aspect. So why did you choose to go on Goodreads? How did you find out about Goodreads, and what is it that you like or do not like about Goodreads?
Well, I think originally the same sources that sent me to WordPress, that e-publishing for dummies. Plus, having published it on Amazon, that connection became an obvious one as well. I enjoy Goodreads mostly because I do a lot of reading. And so it's as much a good source for finding out other things to read as it is a way of publicizing my own work.
Fabulous, fabulous. So how did you use it though? So how do you find books on Amazon, on Goodreads to read?
Well, they're pretty good at suggesting things. There's so many thousands and thousands of books out there that searching for them has never been a problem.
Okay. So what sort of genres do you like?
I read almost anything. I like everything from nonfiction, technical books in psychotherapy to and a myriad of other subjects to science fiction and fantasy, thrillers of all sorts, biographies, you name it.
Hmm. Okay, and you've been able to, you found that, it's been, because you've been able to discover books, you felt that it would be a good avenue to then, for other people to discover your books on.
Hopefully, yeah. I've done a
Okay.
fair amount of reviewing of other books that I've read on there as well, and that's gotten some feedback from other people too.
Yeah. How do you normally use Goodreads?
Well, I list what it is that I'm reading at the moment, and then as I complete those things, provide reviews of them. I've made connections with as many friends on there as I can, and been a part of 3 or 4 different groups that Goodreads provides on particular topics.
And see, you keep understating yourself. You've been doing quite a lot though. So you've joined groups, you've got friends, increase your number of friends. And wow, so how did you decide on which groups to follow?
Well, I looked for groups that dealt with PTSD, with sexual abuse, with psychological thrillers, other authors groups, things of that sort.
Ah, see, because until I became an author myself, I didn't actually even know that there was a thing such as Goodreads. And just like you, when you start the journey and you start reading and researching, you then find out, lots of things that you possibly didn't even know before. So do you feel that Goodreads has been a good source of getting more people to know about you as an author, to find out about your book and, get reviews and stuff? Has that been quite useful to you?
Yes, it has. I'm still debating whether or not I want to engage in trading reviews with other new authors. I have mixed feelings about that, but that's another avenue that I'm considering.
Okay, what are your mixed feelings?
Well, I guess the the question would be how unbiased those kinds of reviews can be if you are trading them back and forth with people. There's a kind of an implicit assumption that you'll give them a good review if they'll give you one.
I know exactly what you mean. When I first started out, I had that thing where someone says, "Oh yes, let's do, you review my book and I'll review your book." And then, even if you don't like it, you feel kind of bad to want to say, "Oh, I don't like your book," and stuff like that. And again, I don't follow Amazon's rules, but I think it's no longer allowed to do that. Like, I think it's saying that there shouldn't be a connection between you and anybody who's doing a review for you. And also, I think they've also changed the laws or the rules, where, before people would say, I received a free copy in exchange for an honest review. I think you're not even allowed to do that anymore. I think what some people are doing on Amazon now is like, what's the word? They're like review groups, but it's not a review my book, I review your book. There'll be a pool of so many people, and each person then gets assigned books randomly, and there is no obligation to review on Amazon. So if anybody reviews on Amazon, they're doing so out of the goodness of their heart, as opposed to because they have to, which I
Mhm.
think, so the Amazon is sort of slowly trying to cramp down on people who do things in exchange, or I received this book in exchange for a review. Whereas I think now they're saying, you can do stuff, but then, there was no, you might say, oh, I received this book as a gift from the author with no expectation to write a review or something like that. Um, so
Yeah,
yes, I
I'm
totally.
I'm still discovering what the rules are on Amazon. It does seem to be that there's more openness on Goodreads than on Amazon that way. It does kind of surprise me that they don't share their reviews with each other, since they're really the same operation.
Yes, yes, but I think it was because Goodreads used to be a separate entity before it was bought over by Amazon. Um, so I really don't know how it works, from the point of view, and I guess also because Amazon has several marketplaces, from .com to .co.uk to .ca to, so it's kind of like, well, how do they pull from all the different marketplaces, on Goodreads? So I have no idea how that would work. But just like you said, I think that Goodreads, is a good marketing strategy, is a good way for an author to increase their, popularity, because if you're quite active on groups, then it means that more and more people are going to sort of quote unquote know your name or know your brand. And the more people who get to see your name, the greater the chances are that they will go and check out your profile, find out what books that you've written, and possibly, go and get a copy for themselves. Or if you wanted to do one of these review groups, because reviews are quite important. Even big businesses, they take out reviews. So with the marketplace being so competitive as at the moment, it's kind of like, well, somebody needs to have a reason to read your book or to invest the time. Even if it was free, they need to have
Right.
a reason to invest the time it will take to read your book. So if nobody, if you can't even get one person in your personal circle to read and review your book, then it kind of makes people think, what's actually going on? Is this book really good? So reviews are quite important, because even if you were going to get baby, it's kind of like a reference as well. If you're going to get a babysitter, you're going to say, well, who have you babysitted, for before? Or if you're going to buy
Exactly.
a car, well, what do you think about this car? Reviews are quite important these days. Reads is one place to be able to connect with like-minded people who would be happy to do the same thing. So you talked about your website, and then you talked about Goodreads, and then you talked about Facebook. So how have you been able to use Facebook? Maybe I can learn something from you, because I've been quite partial to Twitter, because like I said, I find the ease with which it allows you to connect with people quite good. So how have you been able to use Facebook?
Well, as much as anything, I've used Facebook as a way of connecting with old friends and acquaintances from years and years ago that I hadn't bothered to reconnect with on my personal Facebook account, and many of them have been interested in reading the book, just as a way of reconnecting as much as anything.
Right, okay. But then have you done anything to get people outside of your personal circle, to just get more people to follow you on Facebook?
I'm not sure whether I've got people to follow me on Facebook that didn't already have some connection with me. Some of them have referred friends to me and that sort of thing, and so it has gradually begun to grow that way. But
Okay.
that's still pretty young.
Okay. Okay. Well, that sounds like a good place, because again it's all about word of mouth referral. So if somebody refers you and then gets their friends, and that's how you could potentially then grow exponentially. And if you're updating your Facebook page regularly, that could potentially be a source of traffic to your own website. Um, Okay, okay. So we've talked about the three things that you're currently doing. So when you've read, ebook for dummies, ebook publishing for dummies, what strategies are you hoping to try out in the next few weeks or months?
Well, as I say, the main thing I've been considering lately was doing some of the review groups on Goodreads. I've paid attention to other kinds of things like your own Sunday snippets offerings. I've seen a few other things like that in the authors review groups, opportunities to um, be interviewed or blog as a guest blogger on other people's sites, but that's pretty much what I've done at this point.
Okay, okay. Well, yeah, you could continue, you could do that. You could definitely do more of that. You can go on other podcast shows. So, you've been on mine, for instance, and I'm hoping you've enjoyed your time here so far. So you
So
could
far, so good. Yeah.
yeah. So you could then go to someone else and be like, you know what? I've been on one podcast show and I'm interested in coming to be a guest speaker on your, on your show. Obviously, you would need to have, you would need to have more to um, offer, in terms of your what's the word now? Like if you're gonna come, you need to show. Oh my god, I can't even speak properly anymore. In terms of expert content that you provide in the listeners of that show. Because when you go on the show, it's not for the host benefit, it's for the listeners' benefit. So you could then, when you're putting the pitch, you could then say, well, I could cover on this topics because, or you could just go on anyone. So for instance, it doesn't necessarily have to be podcasts on books. You can go on podcasts that deal with maybe PTSD and things like that. And and then in your intro, then say you're also an author, and just give them a link to where they can get your book. So that could be one way to increase the popularity of your brand. So you don't necessarily have to. You can always find, like someone would say, you can always find different pathways. So not necessarily just focus on your career currently as an author. You can also use the other things that you're doing, which is you're as a psychotherapist. So you could go for psychotherapy blogs or podcasts and get featured on there and link back to your author profile. And then you can go on author blogs and author podcasts and link it back to your psychotherapy profile.
Yeah,
And then go.
actually, I suspect I've got a good deal more content to offer on a PTSD blog or something of that sort, sexual abuse issues, than I do in the author world at this stage.
Yes, no, which is fine, but then it just takes time to grow. So when you're doing that, once you've bought your domain name, so once we finish, go and buy your domain name now. Philip Sageser.com, right? Go and register it. Then go and do a URL redirect so that your new domain name will go to your WordPress blog, and then you'll be fine. So when you then go in there, you can then put about us. You then talk about the two different things that you've done, because when you then write as a psychotherapist and then put that you're also an author, it gives you credibility, it gives you immediate expertise, because not
Right.
a lot of people who think that they can write actually can write, and not a lot of people who can write actually do write. So you can and you have done, right? So you've gone through two stages that a lot of people haven't been able to do. So you put it there. Yeah, so that's definitely something that you could do. And I'm hoping when anyone who's listening to this, if they've not got their own domain name by the end of this recording, I'm hoping that they will go and buy and register their own domain name immediately, just so that it's there. So like me, for instance, I've registered segilola.salami.co.uk. So that's it, it's there, right? Who knows? Maybe in a few years' time, I might become the next Oprah, right? But it'll be not Oprah, but it'll be Segilola, right? And so there, my domain name is there.
Makes sense to me. I'm not sure what people learn from me on this podcast, but I've certainly learned some things from you.
Well, thank you. But the thing though is, I think, right, because one, I didn't know there was an e-publishing for dummies book. So that's
Oh,
something that I've learned. So anyone who's just starting out can easily go and check up, on that. Um, so what else have I, learned? So we're doing similar things in terms of, using Goodreads. You've got your website and you use Facebook. See, I don't use Facebook as much. So, you're one person that I can say, okay, uses Facebook and, you're getting traction on your Facebook account. So it's basically just telling people that you've got choice. You know, if you don't like Twitter, you don't have to be on Twitter. You can go on Facebook. If you don't like Facebook, you can go on Twitter. You know, it's there's no fast and hard rule. You don't have to do one thing because everybody else is doing it. You just need to do what is suitable and comfortable for you. And so, can you imagine? I'm feeling like a teacher now. I've given you homework. When you finish with here, you go and buy and register you're gonna register your own domain name now and put a URL redirect to your
Definitely.
WordPress website.
And I'll probably check out Twitter some more too.
Yes, do. I like Twitter because there are a lot of things that I do which I'll probably not say right now, but I just find that it's quite amazing to grow because a lot of traffic that I get from on my blog is as a result of Twitter because I use a lot of hashtags. I've tried using hashtags on Facebook and I do get traction from there, but combining it with Twitter because I find that a lot of book bloggers, in fact, not just book bloggers, but bloggers in general are quite active on Twitter than on Facebook. I find that it's easier to locate people who are looking, for instance, somebody who is free and is looking for a recommendation. I find that it's easier to find such people than it is on Facebook because when you see somebody, you can easily just, tweet at them. Whereas on Facebook, if you're sending them a message, you then have to put a private message. But then if you're not connected, it's really difficult to connect with people on Facebook. Whereas with Twitter, it's just so much easier. You just put at their name and send them a message.
I'll have to check it out.
Yes. So that's why, because the first editorial review I got of my paranormal romance, it was from Twitter. The person saw a post that somebody else had made and thought, you know what, I'm covered. I've got this on. He's an editor, writer for an online, ed, online, what's it called, literary magazine. And he contacted me via Twitter because he found out about me on Twitter. It's just so much easier to find and connect with people on Twitter. That's my personal experience. And if I possibly might try to give Facebook another go. But the thing though is on Facebook, not a lot of people in my personal life know that I write. And I don't particularly want people in my personal life to know that I write.
Aha.
So that's the difference. Whereas with Twitter, you can just do it. And whereas Facebook, it has to be linked to your profile account and it's just long-winded.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So any final words of wisdom in regards to how to promote the popularity of your brand?
Well, I would say that the thing that I have learned most is that it was perhaps easier to write the book than it is to find people to read the book.
High five. When I finished, within a few weeks of writing my book, I came to that conclusion as well. Writing your book is the easiest thing you can do.
Yeah, if it's not well worth doing for the process itself, then you probably shouldn't bother doing it.
Yeah. So I guess again, different people write for different reasons. Some people just write to just have their name out there and say, oh, I've written a book. But I guess for more serious authors, authors who want to become authorpreneurs, because now it's a preneur everything, bloggerpreneur, mompreneur, it's a preneur everything at the moment. So it's hard work. So if you want to make a success, like they say, with anything worth having is worth working hard for. So if you want to make a success of this, then you need to realize that there's a lot of hard work involved.
Yeah, writing the book was it was something that had been on my mind for years, and so it was a relief to actually write it and get it all down on paper. But the reading part, that's a different question.
Mm. Okay. Well, it seems that you're on the right path, because you've done, like when we started, I told you that, you've thought about it and done something about it. So you're far ahead of people who are still thinking about it and haven't actually taken that step to doing anything. And today somebody might just be starting out and think, oh, let me see what else I can do to increase, popularity of my brand, as an author. So, well, thank you so much. And I didn't even offer you any drink just because I'm really poorly, and I didn't want to accidentally sneeze in your virtual drink. You know,
Uh-oh.
get my virus, get it virus, virtual virus.
Yes,
I do make really corny jokes.
uh-huh. Well, I appreciate the opportunity and wish you good luck in future podcasts.
Thank you very much. Remind people again. Can anybody who's listening to the show now connect with you on Facebook? How do they do that? What's your Facebook name?
The author's site is Do You Want to See the Videos?
Okay.
And
Is
it's
that on
Phil,
Facebook?
Phil Sageser, Sageser.
Sorry, say that again, please. I missed you. I missed that.
It's Phil Sageser, Sageser.
Okay. And that's your name on Facebook.
Exactly.
Right. Okay. And there's only one of you in all of Facebook.
As far as I'm aware, there aren't a whole lot of
So yeah.
Sagesers in the world in general.
There's just one of you in the whole world, which is a good thing. Licensed psychotherapist, private practice.
Exactly.
Okay, fabulous. So if you just type in Phil, Phil, just one L, then Sageser, Sageser, you'll be able to find him. You'll find him on the people, and you'll find him on the pages. Okay, well, it's been an absolute pleasure, and maybe sometime you'll come on Twitter, and you can connect with me on Twitter because I'm at Iyayetunde1, Iyayetunde, figure one. But it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show today, and everyone else listening. And I guess I have to apologize for my really today. But as always, if you've got any question whatsoever, please do drop me a line. I do like receiving emails from people. So my email is shagilala@shagilolasalami.co.uk. But until next time, take care now. Bye.
Thank you.